When my phone buzzed that afternoon, I almost ignored it. The contact name, Mom, sat on the screen like a ghost from another life. I was halfway through organizing baby clothes when the ringtone stopped, and then came the text. We heard the news. Congratulations, can we talk? 3 years of silence. 3 years since my sister, Pam, convinced half our family not to come to my wedding because my happiness somehow threatened her divorce. 3 years since I promised myself I'd never pick up the phone again. But pregnancy does strange things to your heart. Hormones, nostalgia, guilt, all mixed into one emotional soup, so I called. Her voice came first. "Sweetheart," she said, dragging the word like it weighed 50 pounds. "We miss you." It was the kind of voice people use at funerals, soft and performative. Then Dad chimed in, the peacemaker. "We just want to make amends, especially now that there's a baby coming." I should have hung up. Instead, I said, "What exactly do you want, Dad?" They hesitated. I heard papers rustling, notes, probably because Mom never said anything without rehearsal. "Well," she began, "we were thinking, maybe this could be an opportunity for family healing. Pam has been struggling so much since the divorce. She can't have kids, and..." I froze. And maybe," she said, voice rising with desperate cheer, "she could help you raise yours, be like a second mother. You'd have so much support, and she'd finally have a child in her life." I laughed, sharp, involuntary, like glass breaking. "You're out of your mind." Dad tried smoothing things over. "It's just an idea. You'll need help." "I have help," I snapped. "My husband, my in-laws, people who didn't boycott my wedding." That's when Mom's tone turned cold. "You're being cruel. Pam's already suffering." Cruel, the word hung in the air like a slap. I could almost hear Pam in the background, probably feeding them lines, pretending she was the victim again. The same woman who'd spread rumors that I'd seduced her husband just to ruin my wedding. Maybe it was hormones. Maybe it was years of buried rage, but I said it. Maybe she can't have kids because she'd make a terrible mother. Silence, then a sharp inhale from Mom followed by a hissed, "That's vile." The call ended there, but the text storm started within minutes. Dozens of messages. "How could you say that? You're heartless. She's your sister. She's broken." My phone buzzed until the battery died. That night, I sat in bed while my husband rubbed my shoulder and said nothing. He didn't need to. I already knew this wasn't over. They'd come back, louder, meaner, angrier, because they always did. And part of me, deep down, was ready for it this time. Because I'd kept quiet for years, and maybe, just maybe, it was time the truth finally came out. The next morning, I woke to 20 missed calls and a flood of family messages that made one thing clear. Pam had started her campaign again. By morning, my phone looked like a crime scene. 22 missed calls, 3 dozen texts, and a group chat titled Family Reunion Red that I definitely didn't create. Scrolling through, I saw Pam's name everywhere. Her messages read like a bad PR statement, vague, dramatic, full of performative pain. I just wanted to reconnect. "I can't believe you. Attack me when I'm already hurting." Infertility is not karma, it's tragedy. And then the posts started. My cousin sent screenshots from Facebook, long paragraphs about cruelty from those we love most, accompanied by a grainy childhood photo of Pam and me holding hands at the park. I'd been transformed into a villain in real time. My husband, Mark, read them over my shoulder. "She's baiting you," he said flatly. "I know." "Then don't give her what she wants." Easy for him to say. He hadn't grown up in a house where silence meant guilt, where being quiet was how you lost the narrative. By noon, my mother had joined the act. "Pam is devastated," her text read. "You owe her an apology. We all saw what you wrote about her infertility." I stared at the message until the words blurred. They wanted remorse, but none of them had ever apologized to me, not once. Not for missing my wedding, not for believing Pam's lies, not for pretending I didn't exist. So I decided to call someone who had nothing to gain from this drama. My Aunt Claire, the only family member who'd shown up to my wedding despite the backlash. "Sweetheart," she said the moment she picked up, "you don't owe them anything. Pam, been playing this game her whole life. I just wanted peace, I told her, but now they're twisting it again. Claire sighed. Of course they are. They're trying to make your pregnancy about them. Don't give them the stage. That stuck with me. The stage. That's all it ever was, Pam's theater, Mom's audience, and me, the unwilling extra. That night, I deleted the family group chat and blocked every number except Claire's. I thought that would be enough to end it. But 2 days later, a friend from high school messaged me. Hey, I saw your sister's post. Is it true you ruined her marriage? I froze. Pam wasn't just rewriting our present, she was rewriting the past. I turned to Mark, holding out my phone. She's saying I broke up her marriage now. He frowned. Then maybe it's time you told the real story. And for the first time in 3 years, I thought of her ex-husband. Quiet, polite, and the only person who might still remember what really happened. That night, I scrolled through old contacts until I found his number, and before I could second-guess it, I pressed call. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, I said, my voice trembling a little. It's me. I'm sorry to call out of the blue. There was a pause, then a cautious warmth. No, it's fine. It's been a while. How are you? Pregnant, I blurted out before remembering why I'd called. And apparently also the reason your marriage ended, at least, according to Facebook. A short laugh, half disbelief, half exasperation. She's still at it, huh? Hearing his tone, a mix of fatigue and recognition, felt like validation I hadn't realized I needed. We met for coffee later that afternoon in a quiet cafe far from my neighborhood. I told Mark where I was going, and he just said, "Be careful," like I was walking into a memory that could still bite. When I saw her ex, Daniel, I was struck by how tired he looked. Not old, just worn in the way people get after surviving someone like Pam. I'm sorry, I started again once we sat down. I wouldn't normally drag you into this, but she's telling people I broke up your marriage. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. You didn't, she did. I waited, heart pounding. He sighed. We fought for months about kids. I didn't want any, she did. But that wasn't the end of it. The real reason I left, she stopped taking her birth control pills without telling me. Thought she could trap me into becoming a dad. I felt my stomach twist. You're serious? He nodded. Yeah, I found out by accident. She joked about it once, thinking I'd find it romantic. That was it for me. I packed up and left the next day. I sat there, stunned. The narrative my family had fed everyone, Pam, the heartbroken victim of a childless marriage, crumbled right there between 2 lukewarm coffees. Daniel hesitated before adding, She blamed you to save face. Said you interfered. I didn't correct her back then. I just wanted to move on. That's understandable, I said quietly. I wanted to be angry, but mostly I just felt tired. For years, I'd carried the shame of something I never did. He looked at me, remorse softening his expression. I should have spoken up, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, I said, but I might finally tell people the truth. He nodded slowly. If you do, use my name, I'll back you up. She's hurt enough people with her lies. When I got back home, Mark was waiting on the couch, laptop open to another one of Pam's posts. You won't believe this, he said. She's claiming you're harassing her during IVF treatments. I exhaled sharply, pulling out my phone. Then it's time I stop letting her control the story. Mark looked up. You mean? I'm done being quiet. I opened my notes app and started typing. I drafted a public post detailing everything, names, dates, receipts, and by morning it was ready to go live. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake replaying every lie Pam had ever told, every time she'd cried on cue, every apology my parents made on her behalf, every time I'd been told to just let it go. When dawn came, I was done letting anything go. I read over the post one last time, a simple, factual account of what had really happened. No insults, no emotion, just the truth. I detailed how Pam sabotaged my wedding, how she lied about me to cover her divorce, and how her ex-husband had confirmed she'd stopped taking her birth control without consent. I even attached a short note from him verifying it, dated and signed. Then I hit post. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then the comments began. At first, friends from my side, people who'd heard whispers years ago but never the full story, left supportive messages. Then came the extended family, trickling in one by one. Some defended Pam, of course, others didn't. A few cousins messaged privately, saying, "I always wondered if she was lying." By mid-morning, the silence from my parents was deafening. I knew they'd seen it. One of my aunts texted, "Your mom just called everyone in tears." I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt calm. Mark came in holding his coffee, glancing at my phone. "You started a war," he said softly. "No," I said, leaning back in my chair. "I ended one." Still, as the day went on, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Half the family called me a manipulator. The other half quietly unfriended Pam. My Aunt Claire called that evening. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than I've been in years." "Good," she said, "because you did what no one else had the courage to. But be ready, Pam's not the type to back down quietly." She was right. 2 hours later, Pam posted a screenshot of my post with a long, unhinged caption about being betrayed by people who exploit trauma for attention. It was full of half-truths and emotional pleas, classic Pam. But this time, the comments weren't going her way. People were asking questions she couldn't answer. A few even tagged Daniel directly. When I checked his profile, I saw he'd commented under her post. "Everything she said is true. Stop lying, Pam." It had more likes than her entire post. I didn't realize I was crying until Mark handed me a tissue. "Hey," he said gently, "you did it." "I didn't do it for revenge," I said, wiping my eyes. "I just wanted to stop being the villain in her story." He smiled faintly. "Then let her stories burn out on their own. You've already moved on." Maybe he was right. But that night, when I scrolled one last time before bed, I saw my parents had finally posted too, something vague about family betrayal and losing faith in people we raised. I sighed and turned off my phone. I knew what was coming next. The following week, my parents called again, this time not to reconcile, but to demand I take everything down. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was slicing strawberries for breakfast. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me wanted to hear what excuse they'd come up with this time. Dad's voice was tight, rehearsed. "You need to delete that post now." I didn't bother pretending confusion. "Good morning to you too." "This isn't funny," Mom snapped in the background. "You've humiliated this family. Everyone's talking about it." "That's not my fault," I said evenly. "Maybe you should have stopped her before she made a fool of herself." Mom exhaled sharply, the way she always did when she was losing control of a conversation. "Pam is devastated. You've dredged up the worst time in her life just to make yourself look innocent." "I didn't dredge up anything," I said. "I told the truth. That's what innocent people do." There was a pause. Then Dad's tone shifted, low, deliberate. "If you don't take it down, don't expect us at the baby shower. Don't expect help. Don't expect a family." I laughed before I could stop myself. That ship sailed 3 years ago. "Don't be dramatic," Mom hissed. "We're trying to save face. Do you really want your child born into this kind of chaos?" Her voice cracked on the word child, and for the first time I caught a flicker of something real. Fear, maybe. Not for me, of course, but for how she'd look to everyone else. "Mom," I said quietly, "you only called because you're embarrassed, not because you care about me or this baby." She didn't deny it. That silence told me everything. When the call ended, I just stood there staring at the half-sliced strawberries, my hands trembling. Mark came over, took the knife, and set it down. "What did they say?" "An ultimatum," I muttered. "Take it down or lose them for good." He studied me for a moment, and I'm thinking that's the easiest decision I've ever made. He smiled faintly. "Good, because we've got our own family to think about now." That night, I sat on the couch with my laptop open, scrolling through the hundreds of comments still pouring in. Strangers sharing similar stories, people thanking me for speaking out. It was surreal. For every hateful message, There were 10 that said thank you for telling the truth. I thought about my parents' threat, about the years I'd spent begging for scraps of affection, and realized something I hadn't before. I didn't need them. I never did. I closed the laptop and whispered, "They can keep their silence. I'll keep my peace." Mark rested a hand on my stomach and smiled. That's the only legacy worth passing down. For the first time in a long time, I believed him. A few days later, as if on cue, Pam showed up at my doorstep, unannounced, desperate. And holding a letter she said would change everything. It was raining when she came. The kind of cold drizzle that soaks through your sleeves before you realize it. I was folding baby clothes in the living room when the doorbell rang, 3 short presses, frantic. Mark looked up from his laptop, expecting someone. No. When I opened the door, Pam stood there in a gray hoodie, hair plastered to her face, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. She looked nothing like the perfectly curated woman from her social media posts. No designer purse, no fake smile, just exhaustion and something that almost resembled fear. "Can we talk?" she asked, shivering. Every instinct screamed no, but something in her voice, fragile, small, made me step aside. She slipped inside, dripping onto the floor. "You shouldn't be here," I said quietly. "I know," she said, clutching a folded letter in her hand. "But you need to read this. It's from Mom." I took it hesitantly. The handwriting was unmistakable, sharp, controlled loops. I skimmed the first line. "Your sister is not well. Please hear her out before you do something you can't take back." I exhaled through my nose. "So what? You're here to guilt-trip me in person now." Pam shook her head, tears welling. "I didn't know Mom wrote that until this morning. I didn't come for her. I came because I don't know what else to do." Her voice cracked. "Everyone hates me. Daniel's friends are posting about me, my job's reviewing my conduct, and Dad won't even answer my calls." "Maybe that's the consequence of lying," I said flatly. She winced. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was angry. You were getting everything I wanted, a marriage, a baby, and I lost control." I didn't say anything. The words felt too familiar, too rehearsed. Pam stepped closer. "Please, can you just take the post down? Even if you hate me, just delete it. People are sending me threats." I stared at her, this woman who had turned my wedding into a battlefield and my pregnancy into her redemption arc. "Do you even understand what you did to me?" She swallowed hard. "Yes, and I'm sorry, I really am." For a moment, I almost believed her. But then I saw it, the quick dart of her eyes toward the letter, the subtle calculation. It wasn't remorse. It was damage control. I handed the paper back. "You made your choices, Pam. Now live with them." Her face hardened, tears drying instantly. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "When the baby comes and you realize you don't have anyone left, you'll think of me." She stormed out before I could reply, slamming the door so hard it rattled the frame. Mark appeared from the hallway, concern etched across his face. "You okay?" I nodded, though my heart was pounding. "She's desperate," I said quietly, "and desperate people do stupid things." He frowned. "What kind of stupid things?" I looked at the rain-soaked driveway, watching her car speed off. "The kind that make me want to change the locks." The next morning, I woke to dozens of missed calls, and one voicemail from an unknown number that made my blood run cold. It came in at 2:47 a.m., a single voicemail from an unrecognized number with the area code of my hometown. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, but I didn't wake until morning. Mark was already making coffee when I pressed play. The first few seconds were static, then Pam's voice, hoarse and frantic. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please, just call me back. They're saying I stole from the company, Mom's blaming you. Please, I can't." And then a muffled sob, the sound of something crashing, and the line went dead. Mark's face paled as he listened beside me. "What the hell?" "I don't know," I whispered, but she sounded terrified. He rubbed his temples. "You're not getting involved. Whatever she's done, it's not your problem." I wanted to agree. I should have agreed. But guilt is a stubborn thing. It worms its way into the cracks logic can't reach. Even after everything, a small, stupid part of me still wanted to know she was safe. I called Aunt Claire first. She already knew. "Your sister got caught embezzling," she said, voice heavy with exhaustion. "Company funds, thousands. Police came to her office yesterday." My stomach turned, and Mom's blaming me. "Of course, she's telling everyone your post drove Pam over the edge." As if the truth caused her to steal. Claire sighed. "I'm so sorry you're still dealing with this, sweetheart. Maybe it's time to cut contact for good, not just emotionally, legally." I hung up and stared at the wall. The baby kicked then, a tiny flutter, as if reminding me where my energy needed to go. By afternoon, Pam's name was trending locally. Arrest rumors, leaked HR statements, half-truths mixed with outrage. My phone buzzed nonstop, but I ignored it until one message slipped through from Mom. "Are you happy now? You ruined your sister's life." I stared at it for a long time before replying. She did that on her own. No response, just silence. That night, as Mark and I watched the news, I saw a blurred photo of Pam outside a police station. She looked smaller somehow, deflated, stripped of her usual confidence. For a fleeting second, I felt pity. Then I remembered her standing in my doorway, dripping rainwater and venom. Mark muted the TV. "Do you want me to handle the rest? Block them all, change numbers, whatever it takes." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think I'm finally ready." We sat there quietly, the hum of the refrigerator filling the room. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace, fragile but real. Until the doorbell rang. We exchanged a look. No one was expected. My heart stuttered as I rose, each step echoing down the hall. Through the peephole, I saw 2 uniformed officers on the porch. "Ma'am," one said when I opened the door, "we need to ask you a few questions about your sister, Pamela." As they stepped inside and removed their hats, I realized this wasn't about an arrest. It was about something far worse. One of the officers was young, maybe my age. The other looked like he'd seen too many endings. Their uniforms were soaked from the rain, shoulders glistening under the porch light. "Is she alive?" I asked before they could say a word. They exchanged a glance. The older one spoke gently. "There was an incident early this morning. Your sister was found in her car at Miller's Creek. It appears she took her own life." For a moment, the world went silent. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, the faint pitter of rain against glass, all of it vanished. Mark's hand found mine, but I barely felt it. She what?" The younger officer cleared his throat. "She left a note addressed to you. It's been processed as evidence, but her parents wanted us to tell you she mentioned wanting forgiveness." Forgiveness, the word hit like a bruise. I didn't cry, not at first. I just stood there, numb, nodding mechanically as they explained the details. Carbon monoxide. Empty bottle of pills, found at dawn. Pam's name on the news had become a tragedy instead of a scandal. When they left, the silence collapsed around us. Mark pulled me close. "You're not responsible for this." "I know," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "But I don't feel relieved either." He didn't push me to talk. We sat there on the couch, holding hands as the rain intensified outside. Later that night, Aunt Claire called, her voice breaking. "Your mom's beside herself," she said. "She's telling everyone Pam's last words were about wanting to fix things with you." I didn't answer right away. There were no words that could make sense of it. Pam had done unforgivable things, but she'd also been drowning for years, performing, lying, clawing for affection in a family that only ever rewarded appearances. And maybe, I realized, we were both just trying to survive it in different ways. After hanging up, I went to the nursery. The soft yellow walls felt too bright, too innocent for the heaviness pressing on my chest. I sat in the rocking chair, hand resting on my belly. "Your aunt made her own choices," I whispered to the baby. "But I'm going to do better. I'm going to raise you in truth, not fear." The words came out shaky, but they were real. When Mark joined me, he knelt beside the chair. "You did everything you could," he said quietly. "You tried to protect yourself. That doesn't make you the villain." I nodded slowly, tears finally breaking free. Then maybe it's time I stop living like one. Outside, the rain eased to a drizzle. The night felt impossibly still, like the world was holding its breath. In that silence, I finally let go of the guilt, the anger, the need to be understood. I didn't forgive Pam, not yet, but I forgave myself for surviving her.